Hey, yo, it's me, Pops Van Marmalade, and you're watching the Comics-Related Madness Network. Uh-huh. So come get some. CromCon. CromCon.
If you're a fan of comic books and comic book conventions, Daytona Beach Comic Con needs to be on your list of must-attend events. It's a show that actually focuses on comic books. Imagine that! This year's event is happening on Saturday, September the 6th, and Sunday, September the 7th. Silverline creators will be there, so we'll see you at the show. There's a new convention in town, and it's sure to be mega fun without the mega expense. Comics, toys, collectibles, pop culture. ShadowCon, Saturday, February 1st, 2025 in Orlando, Florida. Silverline creators will be there, so we'll see you at the show. If you find yourself in the Orlando area, and let's be honest, doesn't everyone come to Orlando for the House of Mouse? Head over to Coliseum of Comics to get your comic book fix. Be sure to check out their location on East Colonial Drive, where they carry a wide selection of independent comics, including Silverline books. Stop by and don't forget to tell them Silverline sent you. Hey, if you're an independent comic creator looking to get your comic printed, look no further than Kablam Digital Printing. They print our comics and do a fantastic job. They can even print special edition covers. When you reach out to them, be sure to tell them Silverline sent you.
Hi, this is Tim TK, host of That Silverline Show on Tuesday. Join us at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Tuesday night as we discuss pop culture and the joys of making comics.
Hi, I'm Barb Kilber, co-host of Silverline's Wednesday Wham. Join us each Wednesday night as we discuss comics, literature, movies, and anything else that may catch our attention.
I'm Roland Mann, and I host Silverline's Silver Sunday. Join me every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern as we make mine Silverline. Hello, everyone, and I think it's live on Facebook now. And welcome to Silverline Silver Sunday on this May. Oh my gosh, I almost said April. May the 4th. Hey,
it's almost June.
May the 4th be with you.
May the 4th be with you. Day after Derby Day.
That's right.
Hey, that's
May
right.
the 4th be with you all.
Sovereignty.
Yeah.
Hope you all have a good 4th.
So I have a question then.
Okay.
If yesterday was Kentucky Derby Day, is Kentucky Derby a big thing in the part of Kentucky where you live, Mike?
Not here. I mean, Louisville, it's nuts.
Right.
I mean, it's absolutely, you know, it's the life comes to a halt other than for Derby Day.
Right.
But yeah, people that are enthusiasts throughout the state. Now, in Eastern Kentucky, it's like, Kentucky what?
Right.
You know, it's like, oh, yeah, them horses are running. But
my dad grew up in Louisville, and he was always talking about, you know, big hats, the mint juleps, and
yeah. Well, you know, I went to graduate school in Louisville, and Kentucky Derby was very big there.
Right, it's like their NASCAR.
Yes, right. Yeah.
Very big blue blood thing, though. It's a blue blood thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember looking, and it was pretty expensive when I was up there.
Yeah, well, it's rich people.
Yeah. True story. Got to tell it because we brought it up, talking about horses. A lot of the southern Ohio, southern Indiana, that area just across the river, they have horses that they train to run, and it's a true story. I'm not making this up. And this dates back to the American Civil War. Confederate cavalry raider John Hunt Morgan raided across the Ohio River one time, and got chased by the 7th Cavalry. Well, just happened to be a whole lot of raining and flooding, and they couldn't get back across the river. So they're riding along the river trying to find a way back across to the south, and they couldn't find one, right, because of all the flooding and everything. And the 7th Cavalry was on their tails. So their horses were given out, and so what they would do is they would stop and take horses from local farmers. These local farmers did not have race horses, right? They didn't have cow. Right. They had plow horses, and so they would swap them, right? They would say, "Here's my old broken down horse. I'm going to take your plow horse because it ain't tired," and then they would try to, run away. Long story short, they pretty much all got captured. Morgan escaped and led more raids, but they pretty much all got captured. But the genealogy of the horses in that area of southern Indiana, Illinois, and Ohio can be traced back to John Hunt Morgan's raid.
Because the thing is about, because a plow horse is a useful horse, but it's basically like a horse in a Warner Brothers cartoon where it's like doop, 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 doop. And when you want a racehorse, you want that primo horse, thoroughbred.
Right. Yeah,
not the wind.
That's right.
That's right. So yeah, welcome everyone. I am your host, I'm Roland, and I am joined by the man of the hour here, of course, that man in the mask guy himself, Mr. Mike W. Belcher. Say hi, Mike.
Hi, everyone. And to be honest with you, it's going to get brutal here.
All right. Well, Tom sent me messages today and said he had Band-Aids, so he's ready.
Oh,
I am ready.
There we go.
And of course, we're joined by Mr. Tom Mason, who irritates Mike.
That's right.
And we are here to take care of that for you. I don't really have any news about anything. We're getting our next crowdfunder ready. I am 99.9% sure what it's going to be. But until that point, whatever is at 0.9, which will probably be tomorrow or Tuesday, I'm not going to say anything. But we're looking to probably launch it on, where's my calendar? On the 14th. So that's what we are looking to do. So all you folks who regularly back our campaigns, thank you very much, by the way. Look for another one to start on May the 14th.
Which is a Wednesday?
That would be a Wednesday, yeah. Right. I'm looking, fingers crossed. We're going to hopefully do a launch party that night.
On the WAM.
On the WAM, yeah, with the Whammers. Okay. So fingers crossed for that. Mother's Day is next week. Don't forget that. We still have a stream schedule. So be sure you do your Mother's Day stuff early in the day so that you can come to our stream. We'll have a guest next week, but I'll tell you about that at the end. Let's see. For those of you getting your comics through stores, Cat and Mouse shipped out, so it should be getting to your store. If it's not already there, it should get there this Wednesday. It should, I think, which is about a week, 2 weeks late. But it's there. It's on the way. Also, the premium foil editions, retailer editions. Ooh, I've got one over there. I have to pull it out and show you guys. Let's see what else.
Did anybody go to Free Comic Book Day or observe anything?
I did not. Did you, Mike?
I don't have a store near where I live.
I have multiple, and that would be a good way of starting out my gripes. There are at least 7 good stores within about 20 or 30 minutes of me, and none of them had anybody, as far as independent guys or anybody,
really
as guests. They don't.
Wow.
They just don't do it here, and it's
really
there is a big Lexington, Kentucky community of comic creators. They have plenty and they're very vocal too. They usually have to do their own little side events in places. The retailers here, they don't want. I have been told off the book. Nobody would say this out loud, but
right.
We take up room. We take up room in the shop, and the interest that people are just there to get the free comics and the dollar books, and the 20 or 30% off they might have on the trade paperbacks. But the indie guys, they've had them in there before. Like I said, I've heard it because I've tried to get in. I've tried, and the nearest one I think is like an hour and a half away that actually has comic guys come in. But as far as here, like I said, I've got one right down the road, and they're just not interested in they
so
want their,
weird.
yeah, it is. It's
Because
very
the
annoying.
stores, when I lived in places where there were stores, Free Comic Book Day was like a thing. And so it would be like, there's one store I know where I used to live in California. They had local creators come up.
Yeah.
And they had a character in costume.
Yeah.
And not like a Bluey or a Pokemon, or not like Superman or Batman, but like something that would be kid friendly.
Right.
For the kids. They had a balloon person. They had a face painter. It became like a circus of which comics were a part, just so people could say, hey, the comic book store is not just comics.
Yeah.
So it's like giving away free heroin or something, where you just, you suck them in.
And it also adds that effect. Oh, look, we went to the comic store and we had fun.
Yeah.
Right. Hey, Dad, when you have custody again, can we go back to the comic book store?
Yeah.
Oh.
We won't tell Mom.
Yeah, that's right. Michael Wilkins says, hey, Mike. That's to you, Mike, by the way. Brentamania89 says, hello, all. Hello, Michael. Hello, Brentamania. Thank you guys for hanging out with us tonight. We're finding out what makes what grinds Mike's gears, and the first one here is his local comic shops, unnamed. Yep. But I will say this, Mike. Central Florida area is very good. I know Tommy and I sent him a message earlier. This is the first free comic book day in several years that the two of us haven't done a free comic book day together. I didn't do one, partly because I didn't chase one down. Just so many other things going on right now. It just honestly just kind of slipped through my radar.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why Tommy didn't, but I know he's away on family business this weekend and wouldn't have been able to do it anyway. So, but the Central Florida stores are usually very good. They'll get I'm not saying they'll put 10 of them in there, but they'll have one or two. Tommy and I have been at Coliseum of Comics, so our sponsor here that we mentioned here. We've been there several years in a row. Sometimes it was just me and him. I think one year it was me, him, and I'm picturing somebody else. I've done one of the free comic book days several years ago with George Perez, and that was in Sanford. Perez, of course, is no longer with us. So yeah, a lot of so I will say this: a lot of the Central Florida comic shops are really very good about that.
I just don't know. I mean, I'm with Mike on this. I just don't know how you let an opportunity lapse.
Because here's the deal, Mike. Would you have charged the guy?
Oh heck no! It would have been it would be a thing that would have been mutually beneficial.
Yes,
because I think there's goodwill there. I think there's socialization. Yes. People. I think people have a question about comics. How do you make them? What do you do when I think that could bring people in. I think it instead of just them walking in grabbing the free comics that aren't free technically, and of course this is another thing up here. They limit free comic book day up here. They just don't say, here, take all these. You got to buy so much to get these free comics.
Oh. Well, usually down here, you're limited to a certain number of like you get to like in some shops is hey you can have 3, in other shops. But you know what? Here's what I have heard when I've done it before. I've heard people come in and say, "Oh, we can't hang around here because we got to hit the other shops up so that I can get the other free comics." They're making the trek along all the free the stores to get the free comics.
And that's a comic crawl. Forget about a pub crawl. That's a comic crawl, and that, like I said, that is the fun of comics.
Yeah.
It's that fellowship. You're going, hey, what are you doing for free comic book day? It should be a big event in most comic fans' days. That granted. It's really just a lot of the retailers don't like it.
Right.
They don't make, a lot. They have to find out deals, but it still gets people in there. And like I said, it shares the fellowship of comics. What we're sitting here doing right now, we're talking comics.
Yep.
And I think occasionally, a reporter shows up from the local media and wants to do a story, and an artist or a creative person is always interesting to talk to besides a retailer. And watching, if you have a character there and you have an artist drawing and you have a face painter and you have balloons or whatever, those are all visuals that television really loves to put on screen.
Yeah.
And a lot of stores do have relationships with their local media for just such an event. And so I don't know. I've never understood. I mean, I understand. I've known a lot of great retailers.
Yes.
And I still know a lot of great retailers who like see every opportunity. And like when I walk into a store and I see they have an event coming up, it's like, oh, I wouldn't have thought of that, but that's
right.
I'm not in that business.
Right.
And to have retailers just like ignore certain opportunities, whether or not Free Comic Book Day is worth it to them or not. It's those kinds of retailers to me seem like they dropped the ball on other things as well.
Yeah.
Well, I know one of the shops that we did, and it's not my place to say, but I know one of the shops that we did it in. He clearly said that Free Comic Book Day was their most profitable day of the year.
Right.
More than Black Friday, Cyber Monday, more than any of that. Free Comic Book Day was because people come in for the free comics, and granted, a lot of them come in and get the free comics and they go.
Right.
But a lot of them come in there and go, oh, man, I remember I used to read Batman all the time. Right. Oh, look, here's a new Batman book. I'm going to get it, right? Because all my nostalgia buttons are, going off. Yeah. So I'm going to pick this up because it was a fond memory.
Yeah. And also, you might want to come back. You might see something for an upcoming thing and, whatever.
Yep.
And it's just, there's a joke that I'll probably get us all in trouble now, but I was at a party with a bunch of retail guys and marketing guys from comics in Southern California. This is like 3 months ago, so it's a fresh joke. And we were talking about the business, and one of the guys said, you can give a retailer $10 and he'll complain it's not 2 5s. And that's,
unfortunately, there is a lot of that.
Yeah. And it's like, and I know that's a small group of retailers.
Yeah.
And then, in the larger community of retailers,
but they're loud.
We've met a ton of good guys who sell comics.
Yes.
And love comics.
But here's what I would say. Like a lot of, elements that are on the fringe, they're loud. These fringe retailers who complain about everything, they're just loud. There's not that many of them, but man, you can hear them above the din of everything else.
Yes.
And so it makes it seem like it's a much bigger thing than it really is.
And I know that as a one-time publisher of comics, I'm guilty of this as well. You sort of believe that the experience that you have is universal.
Yeah.
And so, if this is the way it is in your store, well, this has to be the way it is in other stores.
Everywhere.
Yeah. I'm just like everybody else. And it's like, it's only when you get outside and that's why I always think it was great when the industry was bigger and there was money, when retailers could have their conferences and get together.
Yeah.
And you could realize, you could get, you could find out that certain things, you're absolutely in sync about. And other stuff is like, no, you're the lone wolf.
Yeah, you're the only one selling that title, bud.
That's right.
Yeah. A couple other comments here. David A. Scooterez. Hey, David, thanks for hanging out with us. Good to see you here as always. He says 2 Christmases, Tom.
Okay. I don't know what that's about.
I was going to say, I don't know that one. So
maybe Free Comic Book Day is one Christmas, and then you have actual Christmas some other time.
There we go.
Yes, right. I like that. I like that interpretation. Mike.
I need the ace interpreter to translate for me.
Hey, yo, Madness Pops says, hey, yo, what's up, Pops?
Yo, Pops.
Good to see you here. Always hanging out with us, Pops, watching over us. He also says, for Madness programming, info, booking, sponsorship, Roku opportunities, our store, and more, go to themeg.tv and you will find all that out. Michael Wilkinson says the free model works sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so here's, I think Mike was going there, but didn't quite make it there. The thing about it is Free Comic Book Day we love it, right? We love it. We love what it does. We love what it does for the industry, and it sounds really cool. But those comics aren't free. The retailer has to pay for those comics, and granted, they don't pay. They don't pay what they don't pay an exorbitant rate. But I actually looked in this year. I don't know if you guys know this. I didn't know this until late last year. You can actually apply to be, if you make comics, you can apply to be included in Free Comic Book Day.
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
And I did. And so I applied to be included in Free Comic Book Day. And I speculated, because they give you numbers, right? Here's a tier, here's a tier, here's a tier.
Yeah.
Here's a window in which these books usually sell. Here's a window in which these books usually sell. Here's a window in which these books usually sell. So I went out and I got a quote. And I said, all right, well, if we can, if we print that many comics, how cheap can I let it go? And I priced it out, sent it in, and the response, they were people who responded to me, incredibly nice people, basically said the primary reason that we weren't selected is that we were a little pricey. And he said most of them are cheaper than that. And so I'm guessing they either print a whole lot more or they just take the loss. And
they probably see it as advertising.
Yep. But that's not something I couldn't afford to do that. I could afford to give it away. You know what I mean? And that's what we were doing, but I couldn't afford to take that kind of loss. So, who knows? I'll try again. They were incredibly nice in their conversations with me. They didn't slough me off because I didn't make it or anything like that. So,
we'll see what happens now that Universal is going to step in.
Yeah.
And whatever that other company is, Sparkling Horse or something, whatever those two companies are, they're going to run things.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I got paperwork from Diamond yesterday, which I'm not really sure what it means yet, but it actually has Silverline on it. So
there you go.
So I'm gonna have to. I got to get help with this one. So it has a form that like I said, it's already got Silverline filled out in it, and then it looks like it was wanting me to file a claim, and I don't know whether. Oh, there's a page on here that says instructions. I didn't see that part. Anyway, the only thing I can figure out is that so I'll have to look at that later. So I got that yesterday. Anyway. Mike, Tom and I are in agreement with you that your local stores are because they don't invite creators to support Free Comic Book Day, they get a strike.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, I would have given away free comics.
Yeah.
I would have had comics of my own because economically, I could do that in one store. I couldn't do it across the spectrum.
Right.
But in the store, I've been glad to have given away comics.
People could flip through your sketchbook and buy a piece of original art.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, there's the being in public and being available. I mean, there's nothing beats that. And I think again, I think it's just short-sightedness by the retailer. I mean, I can understand to a point if it's a very small store, but I've seen some places put guys outside. It was a nice day yesterday.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
But the other thing too, and maybe this is the thing that grinds me, so we'll make it about me now, but is that there are so few opportunities for comic book people to gather together.
Yes.
Without being the person who initiates everything.
Right.
That having an event like that can be a draw for just socializing with other local talents.
True.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Schmooze the retailer, schmooze some of the customers, talk to the other creators in the area that all show up. And, after Free Comic Book Day is done, maybe grab a couple of guys and go out to dinner.
Yep.
Make it a big social event. And so I think I'd be angry at getting cut off of that because now organizing that is something I have to do.
Right.
There's a store over in Virginia that does that every year. Cavalier Comics. I have no problem dropping this name. Yeah. He has had small indie comic guys there for years, and he has them perfectly lined up. And like I said, my friend Todd, he's always been there. There's 3 or 4 guys that usually are always there. Yeah. And they have a great turnout.
Well, and I know one of the ones that Tommy has done before, and Barry has the 3 Alarm Comics down at the Mississippi Gulf Coast. They always do something, right? Frequently, Mitch Bird is there. Stephen Butler's been there. Of course, the kind of the usual gang of us Mississippi guys. I saw Dave Dorman announce this year that he was going to be there. Yeah. So, there are plenty of good stores that do embrace that the stores like your local stores, Mike, that just makes that strike even harder because it's like, why are they not doing that? It's not like, like I was kind of suggesting earlier, I don't know any, that's not true. I know very few comic creators. Certainly I don't know any independent creators that would say, oh no, you got to pay this much money to get me there. No, I think they'd come down and do it as a promotion.
Well, because I can see doing it for a big convention because a convention is a convention.
Right.
Whereas like the local store is the local store.
Right.
And so, that's like charging an elementary school to show up to talk about your work. It's like, you just, why would you do that?
Yeah.
Go talk to kids.
Yeah. It doesn't make any sense. It makes no sense. Tom,
two.
did you? Before we get there, Tom, did you have a chance to do Free Comic Book Day anywhere?
No, because my local store is 90 minutes away.
Oh yeah, that's a long way to go.
That's a schlep. And it's so, no.
And the moose don't travel that fast anyway. Up to
no,
Canada,
they don't.
right?
No, it's and so it's. I mean, the store is great, and they do the times that I've been able to get down there and just see what it's about. They do a great spread, and they move a lot of regular cover price stock, but they also use it as an opportunity to clear out the back issue bins.
Yeah, exactly.
That have been collecting up over the years.
Yep.
And so all the comics that might be worth $3 but have been sitting in the bin for 3, 5, 6, 8 years.
Yep.
Just move them out and get your cash flow.
Well, I know that I've seen more than one store do there's the Free Comic Book Day, right? Here's our selection of free comic book days. And then after you go through those, oh, look, here are 50-cent books, right? Or here are $1 books. I'm like, oh, well, I've got free comics. Now, let me see what's 50 cents.
Yeah.
And of course, there's a lot of 90s glut stuff, but
and some stores put the free comic books towards the back of the store. So you have to pass the basically past the store and see what else is there before you get to the free comics. It's sort of like the way the grocery store puts all the milk and eggs in the back. So you can't just drop in for milk and eggs. You got to run all the way through. You got to pass the cookies.
That's right. Cookies and the ice cream.
That's right. I go down the cookie aisle, get the milk and the eggs, and come back up the ice cream aisle.
Yeah, that's true. No, you're right. It's always in the very back. And of course, I love you. I've said that on here enough. I love going through those cheap boxes, right?
Oh yeah.
You can find so much stuff in there that's been overlooked.
My favorite thing is finding a book that used to be hot, and everybody was talking about it, and everybody had to have it, and it was like now it's jumped up. It was like $10 a copy or $15 a copy, whatever. And I'm picking up at the 50-cent bin years later.
I know.
Okay. I know how the industry works.
Yeah. It is funny. Well, what it's also funny is to see you go to a show and you see a guy have a book up on his the rack behind him. Hot book, $20, and I'm like, I just saw it over there in the dollar box. Right. Yeah. I mean, it's not that hot, dude. But if you can get it, more power to you.
Well, it's like Rob Liefeld just put out a remastered Youngblood #1. It's like, dude, that's probably in the 50-cent bin right over there.
Right.
You don't have to pay $10 for the remastered version. You can go over there.
I don't have a problem with anybody trying to maximize their income on their creator-owned property. I have no problem with that. However, there have been like 10 different versions of Youngblood #1 in my lifetime.
Yes. Yeah.
And so it's
speaking of that, before we get to Mike's next thing, I have entered that phase in my life, I think, Tom, speaking of, this is in your lifetime, where you're at a show, you're talking to a retailer, you start talking, and they're like, I've seen your name, on the thing, but I don't recall, I don't know really what you did. You start talking about it, and well, do you remember the Ultraverse stuff? Well, when was that? And I'm like, well, that was in the 90s. Oh, I wasn't born until 92. And
Right.
I'm like, oh yeah, I've seen those in the dollar boxes bins. I'm like, yeah, those are the ones.
Well, that's the thing too, is that comic book fans born in the year 2000 are now 25 years old.
Yeah.
I know, right?
That's a long time.
They have no idea what the Ultraverse is.
No, old man.
I know it. Yeah. So yeah, that was something I realized at Brick City Con. It was kind of fun to realize.
Tell us what it was like in the old days, Grandpa.
Right. I may have to start getting some mascara out before
How did
I go
FedEx
to the
work?
shows.
How did you fit your pages in the FedEx box? How much tape did you use?
Yeah, like the other
Madness
day,
Comic Network says rumbling.
Aiden found a floppy disk. And he said, how did this work?
Oh, no.
It's like, you've seen
put it on
this
the
before.
turntable
So,
like
yeah,
a
but I've
DJ.
never asked about it. It's like, well, there was this little thing with the computer. And you put it in.
Yeah.
And then he pulled the thing back. Oh, there's film in here.
Yeah, there they are.
Like, hey, there we go.
I have
I don't
so
know
much
why
stuff,
I have these, right? But I still have them.
because in the apocalypse there'll be money.
Yeah. So the backup disc.
I have so much old Malibu stuff on those kind of discs.
Yeah.
But I don't have anything in the house or in my storage unit that has a drive.
No.
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 Yeah, and one of those floppies might hold 2 pictures off your phone.
Oh,
That's
right.
right.
Maybe.
Yeah.
One script.
Maybe if you're lucky.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Michael Wilkinson says, when it is your brand image on church donations, but marketing works at a scale and product exhaustion.
That sounds too smart for me. I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
I'm gonna need
maybe
smaller
he's
words.
talking about his comment up here. The free model works sometime.
Oh, there it is. Yes.
Yeah.
When it is your brand image on church donations, but marketing works at a scale and product exhaustion. Yeah.
Yes.
This is
Now,
true.
okay.
Yeah.
I got to pay more attention to the first comment.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I showed the first comment, but then we got to talking. I didn't see the other comment. So,
This is
all right,
why I
Mike, what's
make
next?
I make a terrible detective.
Crowdfunding. How about we hit crowdfunding and late crowdfunders?
Oh, I was going to say now. Wait, what you talking about crowdfunding now?
No, I'm not.
What are you talking about, Willis?
To all my indie brethren out there, two
Yeah.
thumbs up, because quite honestly, I have hardly ever had an indie product ever late. You know who usually gets a book late? Guys that do monthly comics
Right.
for Marvel or DC.
Yes.
I just got
professionals.
Professionals. I just got an update for a graphic novel that I was supposed to receive 6.5 years ago.
Good grief.
And these are guys I respect, and I'm again, be that what it may be, life gets in the way.
Yeah.
But late crowdfunders across the board, and when I see things like that, I there's places you can go to see, who is the latest on their projects.
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't know that.
And
You have to send me that link.
and I'm not gonna miss words on this one. The number one was Tony Harris from 2010. He still hasn't fulfilled a book from 2010.
That's 15 years.
Right.
Wow.
Now, so it doesn't make my 6 years too bad. But that's something that grinds my gears, because it's one thing, we're indie people. We have day jobs. We have responsibilities that are not monthly comics, that are not what we have to do to get through and keep the lights on. We do this for fun. We do this for whatever. But like I said, we
love it.
We love it.
Right.
Yep.
And when professionals, and I respect professionals, and I understand you get into something you don't understand. But if you've done this before, you should know what to expect.
Right.
And when you get into a situation, and particularly this is the only thing that grinds my gears, is that when you put in, this is the reason that we're asking for this dollar amount for our goal, is so that we can afford to do this book in 4 or 5 months. We're asking you to pay our salary or page rate or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
But then once that's fulfilled, in this particular case, what happened was they started taking freelance work. And and while, again, I can't blame anybody for wanting to keep the power on. When you're making, especially a crowdfunding situation, you're making a connection to the people that are supporting your work. and you are making that, hey, we want to get this done for you. We are asking for this dollar amount because we need to live. But then they turn around and take freelance work, which again, it's indispensable, and you don't know month to month if that offer will be there 4 or 5 months. But at the same token, you did make a promise. You did come and say, hey, we, in selling this book to you, we're kind of making a promise to you. We're trying to say that we're going to do this. So if they hadn't put that in the little bit of the information.
Did we lose him?
Yes.
Well,
aggravated about it.
Well, it's not just selling the book to you; it's taking your money. We are going to take your money as we make this promise to you.
So I have two ill-informed thoughts about that. So my prequel to this is that absolutely right. Mike is 100% dead on. I mean, there's no, but I think what happens is some of them get disappointed in the money and realize that it wasn't actually enough. They didn't make
$100,000 like they thought.
And so there a lot of, because I've met a lot of creators who are like, this is my golden ticket.
Yeah.
I'm going to end up owning the Wonka factory with my book. And then the book just barely breaks the Kickstarter amount.
Right.
And then it's like, now they've lost their drive or whatever. And now I got to take this freelance job. And so there's that, which I understand, even though I don't like it, because I want the book, just like Mike does. And the other is, I think that, and I've met creators like this too, and I'm not saying all creators are like this, but I've met some who don't understand actually how comics are made.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
They do their piece.
Right. They understand their part. It's like a band, right? You've got a drummer, a bass player, a guitar player, a singer, maybe a rhythm guitar player. The bass player knows how to play the bass.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's all he knows how to do.
And he knows when to come in and he knows when to exit.
That's
and he knows when the song is wrapping up. But some people love it because they're used to a system where an editor at a company or another partner or whatever handles those things.
Did all that.
And then when they realize they have to do it themselves and pay that person.
Right.
So it's not just my page rate. It's I got to pay my lettering person and my coloring person, and I got to pay an editor to proofread everything, and I got to pay somebody to put the pages together in a format resembling a book that the printer will actually print.
Right.
Like, well, I don't know how to do that. And then,
that's right.
And then that takes the wind out of the sails too. But I mean, so I understand the arguments about why things fail, but I'm like Mike. I want the book.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Well,
and then my patience for the book is because I do want the book.
Right.
I respected the creators. I've been fans of the creators for years, and they did do a crowdfunder book before this one. They'd have produced one. It was a year late, but it wasn't 6 years late.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's a thing in my brain that if little Johnny in Alabama can get his comic book out and crowdfund it and whatever, and do everything on a shoestring or whatever, then Mr. Big Time Creator, who's been in the business for 10 or 15 years, ought to be able to do that a little bit better.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. That's probably also one of my biggest frustrations as well is unfulfilled campaigns. And especially when it comes from a name creator. Right. That that you think, oh, this is someone who's worked in the biz 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, whatever, longer. They had a DC gig, had a Marvel gig. They understand the grind, the month-to-month grind.
Yeah.
And then now you're just sitting there waiting for the comic. And the thing I hate about that most is that they bring in, from my perspective, what happens is they bring in new people. Right, to the crowdfunding scene, right? Because there's a lot of people, as much as we'd like to think about it, there's a lot of people who never supported a Kickstarter campaign or any kind of crowdfunder.
Right.
They've kind of heard about it. Yeah, I kind of know what that is. It's like a GoFundMe, right? Yeah, because everybody does GoFundMe for some reason. But then they're like, oh, well, this famous creator is doing one. I'm going to support theirs because I know that creator. And then, 4 or 5 years later, they don't have the book. They're like, well, I'm not going to back any campaigns because, famous creator A didn't do it. So why am I going to get this other campaign that looks really, really cool, but it's from someone I've never heard of before?
Yeah. So last year I backed Howard Chaykin's adaptation of the Fargo Western novels that came out in the 60s and 70s, and I wanted to see it because it's Howard,
Right.
and I also know he can keep to a schedule or whatever, but I also know it's a hardcover graphic novel that's being printed in China, so I understand the layout of the schedule.
Yeah.
It's like you got to crowdfund it first. Howard's got to take the time to finish writing it and drawing it and get it going. And then once it's done, it's still got to go to China.
Right.
And China still has to print it on their schedule and then ship it by boat over here. So I understand the time thing. And but all along the way, I was getting updates from the publisher.
Yeah.
It's like, right about the time I'm thinking, wonder what's going on. Boom, there'd be a thing in my inbox where it's just, here's what we're doing. We're finishing this. We're doing that. The printer's got it for schedule for this. We're ready to go. And then I probably got 15 emails throughout the entire thing. And I got the comic, and it's fantastic. It's like, it's everything. As long as you're staying, as long as they're keeping you posted and being straight up with you, hey, here's where we're at. Boom. Then you're like, oh, okay, cool. I see that. And it kept to the schedule that I was promised.
Right.
Yeah.
And
I mean, they're responsible creators out there that do it. Matt Wagner and Kelly Jones, they did the Dracula last year, and it was 3 months early.
Yep.
It came 3 months earlier than they promised, and he already did another update saying they've already sent it to print, and it's probably going to be 3 months earlier than what they said last time. So I mean, that's responsibility. That's telling me, hey, we know you want this book. That's the reason you put your hard-earned money into it. And here's the status of it. We're not going to, we're transparent with this. That's responsible.
Yeah. And it's a thing that I appreciate too, because it shows an understanding of what their audience is.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like this. Yeah. I know these people, they've been my fans for years. Now I'm sort of breaking out in a way that you could actually prove that you're a true fan of mine by supporting this special project of mine. So I'm going to try to retain you and keep you up to date and, keep you on board, because I might want to do a second one.
Well, I was going to say, and the faster he can put it into your hands, the more likely you're going to grab that next one.
Yes. And you're going to talk about it. You're going to talk about it online. You're going to talk about it with your friends. You're going to talk about it, everywhere.
Yeah. Here's a sad story. David A. Gutierrez says, my sad story. I backed a project that floundered for years, and the creator died before anything happened with it.
Oh man, that's brutal.
Yeah.
You can't help that though.
No, you can't help that, but it is a sad story.
I mean, to me, that's the biggest risk, is that something happens and the creator can't finish it.
Yeah. I have only ever got a refund on one campaign, and that was because it was like 4 years late. And there were people on, it was a Kickstarter project, and there were people on Kickstarter complaining because this particular freelancer had taken other work.
Right.
And had not delivered, and was out, promoting, oh, look at this big project I'm doing. And everybody's like, hey, whoa, wait, you promised us this thing. Where's this thing, right? And he got so mad. There was an exchange on it. He got so mad at one of them. He said, fine, if you want your money back, just let me know and I'll refund you. He goes, anybody else who wants their money back, and I will say this, because no names, right? He was a complete jerk about it, right? And so he goes, anyone else who wants their money back, just send me an email. And so I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll take my money back too.
Right.
So I sent him an email and said, hey, I backed. I'd kind of like a refund. If you get it going again, I'm looking at the updates. But in truth, I wouldn't back it. Number one, because of the way he acted. Number two, because I want to see a finished product at this point.
Yeah. And the thing about it, the longer it goes, that money's gone. Unless they were really responsible with it, more than likely they've spent that money. Yeah,
he bought a table at San Diego for it with the money. Well, I don't know that. I don't know that to be the case.
No.
Some people don't realize that you have to pay tax on that money.
Yeah.
Right.
That's because that's income.
It is. Income. Yep.
And so the IRS watches Kickstarter. They're like a hawk. And
they sure do. Thank you, Barb.
We're taking a piece.
Barb takes care of us, the Silverline stuff. So yeah. We know that. Yeah, David, that is a sad story. And the thing about it is, you're never going to get it now.
No.
Right.
Never going to get it. So, all right, Mike, spin the wheel again.
Let's see here. Let me think. What else is hot? Oh, modern comic movies. The last couple of years, Thunderbolts came out this weekend, and
Yep.
the thing that struck
I've
me
seen
about what'd you think?
I liked it.
You liked it?
I liked it. Yeah.
Now my question is, would you have possibly liked it more had it been maybe instead of the little extra characters from all the other Marvel movies, that maybe they actually went with the comic book theme of it? The idea is that villains were posing as heroes, and then the Avengers have to come back.
So here's why I possibly liked it. All right. I don't know much about the comic book at all.
Oh, okay.
So I know Bucky. I know the Taskmaster, who I didn't recognize in the movie. I know the Red Guardian, who is not like the Red Guardian I remember in the comic books, right? And I don't know the other characters except from the Black Widow sister, who I forget her name. All they do is they call her Yelena in there. Black Widow. USA Agent. I know him right from the comics.
Right.
So I don't know what the comic book was. So I enjoyed it for what it was, I think.
And I can see that. And really, this was the conversation about the legitimacy of translating a comic to it, but it's my head. It's the way I think. It's like you're thinking to yourself. It's like with James Gunn's Superman.
Yeah,
you've got an iconic logo on this guy's chest that's been around for 90 years, and your major relaunch of the character the S doesn't look a thing of anything that's on T-shirts at Walmart, keychains that are in novelty stores, and then you're looking at it, and you're kind of like, what person in a boardroom thinks that, forget the idea that you want to put your own stamp on it, or you think what the modern audience wants to do. Why would you ignore 90 years of marketing?
Right.
That's done the work for you. That's done absolutely. It's like when they see that S, it's on Shaq's forearm or shoulder. It's on so many other athletes' shoulders. I mean, that grinds my gears because again, I've lived through some horrible adaptations. I'm used to that. I'm not, but when I see stuff like that, it's like, why would you not want to take advantage of things that are, kind of out there for you already? It's like you go on the assumption, everybody knows that Clark and Lois are an item. Okay, you go with that. But then you make this S that doesn't, as far as marketing materials go, you're completely ignoring, again, what is very common knowledge in society. Superman is probably up there with Mickey Mouse, and as far as identifiable,
worldwide, yeah.
And then you got, like I said, the guy looks great. He fills out that suit great. He's got a good presence about him. But you just kind of like, scratch your head. It's like you're almost there, and then you do this very Hollywood thing of saying that we know better, that we're going to make our stamp, and this is going to be, this is what people will think about. But think about 1989, the bat symbol was as is everywhere.
Yeah.
And it was a marketing tool. It was something that went over in gangbusters and really, made that the year of the bat. And so you just kind of wonder, it's like you scratch your head. It's like, well, where's some of these guys coming? They want to change these characters so much that, again, origin stories and characters or whatever. But when you get to these costumes, they're iconic. And why do you, it's just like that. Like I said, that just kind of gets at me. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like it all because the thing is, I've been in meetings where the equivalent of changing the Superman S has come up, and it's like people always say in the meetings I've been in is like, well, that's old now. Modern kids aren't going to identify with that, and we're going to drive by.
What's up, Tommy? Joining us late, everyone, is Mr. Thomas Flormani Jr. Is this better late than not? That's right.
Can you actually hear me? Because I don't have all my setup stuff.
What?
Oh, yeah,
What'd you say?
Yeah. Are you in a car? Are you kidnapped? Do we need to call the police?
Are you still in Mississippi?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Till Wednesday.
Till Wednesday. Okay. All right.
Well, Tuesday. Driving back Tuesday.
Gotcha. Well, you know the topic. We're talking about the things that grinds my gears, and right now he's on bad movie adaptations of comic books, essentially. I saw Thunderbolts this weekend, so no spoilers, but I enjoyed it.
Did you? Yeah, the people at I did swing by free comic book day stuff, and everybody there they were saying it was like, man.
Well, so here's what I told Mike. I said part of my enjoyment might come from the fact that I don't really know much about the comic book, the printed comic book. I never read Thunderbolts. Never. I'm not sure. I don't think I have.
But you know the thing about it is, as much as they really used Baron Zemo in Civil War, Captain America: Civil War.
Right.
They really could have led up to something like Thunderbolts, because that's the whole point of the comic, is that you have these new group of government heroes that look like the next Avengers.
So Baron Zemo was part of the comic book?
Huh?
Baron Zemo was part of the comic?
Yeah, because like I said, you have all these like 5 or 6 characters that are heroic, and they're the government's saying, we don't need the Avengers, here's the Avengers, and they're doing these good deeds. And at the very end of the book, the guy who leads the team takes off his mask, and he's Baron Zemo, and every one of them are villains. They're the Trapster and Beetle, and that's the rub of it. They're villains pretending to be heroes in their own goal. And think about that in the cinematic universe. They could use, like I said, they've established Zemo as somewhat of a schemer, and the thing about it is that they could have used him. It could have been. A lot more than, like I said, using these cast-off characters. And it would have been a nice little introduction to all these Avengers things they're trying to do, I thought. But, in the end, they're not paying me to write the movies.
No.
Yeah, we were supposed to go see it with our lawyer buddy, and something came up. So we didn't get to go see it,
Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet, but I want to see it this week. It's on my to-do list.
So my wife gave it an 8. Brett gave it a 7, and I gave it a 7.5. I was right there.
There
in the
you
middle.
go.
So, like I said, we enjoyed it. David A. Scooter says, and I'm gonna say something about this. To avoid spoiling the end credit scene, don't read the music credits during the film. I didn't read the music credits during the film. Or I glanced at them, but I don't remember. But you must stay for there are 2 stingers. Okay, there's one. They go, oh, the end, and then there's a little bit of credits, and then there's that immediate one. When that one's over, half the audience gets up and leaves. Stay, because there's one almost at the very end, and it's really, really, really good.
I think the music credit is "Don't Go Away Angry, Just Go Away" by Motley Crue.
Oh, I don't. Again, I didn't.
I'm kidding.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say I didn't read the. Although there was one on there that made me go, "Why's that one on there?" And then the end credit, the end scene.
Oh, it was part of the music they played during the.
The thing I love about the way the audience has been trained is when I was growing up, when the credits started to roll,
you left.
We just left.
Yep.
There's nothing, and now I won't leave.
Nope.
Until the guy comes in to sweep the floor.
Right.
Yeah, no matter if it's a Marvel movie at all. It is. Other people's movies. But good and well, there's no end credit. Fun,
I'm not leaving.
Just in case, because everybody's doing it now.
Yeah.
But I'm finding myself now on the comic movies waiting to see who they gave thanks to. Right?
Yes.
Okay. If there's Fabian, there's sorry.
Because you're hoping your name pops up there somehow.
Thunderbolts is Kurt Busiek, right? And then Fabian, it's Kurt and Fabian. Because I think Kurt created it and wrote the early issues, and then Fabian came in and wrote other issues.
Again, I never read a Thunderbolts comic.
Kurt Busiek and Mark Bagley.
Okay.
Right.
The original
Bagley.
creators.
Whatever happened to that guy?
I think he's still working for Marvel, still pumping it
Is
out.
he? Oh, good.
I can tell you what he's doing. He's working on a Conan thing right now.
Ooh.
Okay.
With John Dell.
Oh, okay.
Nice. All right.
Wow.
For Dynamite or for the?
It's no. It's
Titan's got Conan.
Titan. I think that's what it is.
Okay, Titan. Right. Yeah. Whoever it is.
Yeah, I
I
got
would
to see the
not seen-
pages. They look really cool.
Yeah, I would have never seen Bagley on Conan. That's pretty cool.
No.
No, it's not as normal. If you're thinking like it's normal superhero-y kind of stuff, it's more
Right.
Conan-y looking. It looks pretty good.
Cool.
And then John Dale's inks are beautiful on it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Dale's a good inker.
Yeah.
Oh,
I haven't seen his inks on anything in a while, but that's more on me than John. But I remember his stuff was well, it's awesome.
Yeah.
It was hot.
Yeah. I will say I am because they ran a trailer at the movie, and I'm excited about the Fantastic Four movie. I at first I was like, I'm so nervous because the first couple were okay, and then that most recent one they did was just a disaster.
Were any of them any good?
You know what? I didn't mind the ones with Jessica Alba and Chris Evans. I didn't mind those.
I want there to be a good one. I just say that to me they've all stunk pretty bad. So I'm just if it's a good one, then I'll be happy. That'd be great.
It feels like for the Fantastic Four, the ground already burned.
Yeah,
and you can't grow any crops there because there've been. I think I said this before on the show. Is there's that bad one that Roger Corman did. It's just awful.
Yes.
And then there's the other ones that were made with Jessica Alba and Chris Evans and the other people. And then there's the Incredibles, which really is a Fantastic Four movie.
The only one that worked. Yeah.
Yeah, that perfect. And so when I saw the Incredibles, it's like, well, that's the guy Brad Bird's the guy that should be doing the Fantastic Four movie because he understands family dynamics. And this one, it has a high. I mean, I'm gonna see it, but it has a high bar.
Yes, it does.
Right.
Well, and it's funny that you say family dynamics because that was one of the things that one of the gripes that I heard about all the other Fantastic Fours is that no one understands the Fantastic Four. They're the first family of Marvel. They're the and this trailer that they played at Thunderbolts,
right?
Family. That word just kept popping up.
But the thing is, even now, the idea of we're a family that's been ruined by the Fast and Furious movies because they're all a family too.
They're family.
We're all family.
I think what it is where Hollywood wants to connect with the casual movie viewer. They think that is what makes the Fantastic Four relatable is the family thing. But I think what they're missing is the creativity and the actually mind-blowing Jack Kirby wild negative zone, inhuman blue section of the moon. And I mean, I can understand why they go for the family because they think they're trying to get mom and dad or grandma and grandpa to understand these funny book movies. But I think the same group would really dig absolutely big Annihilus Throwdown or just take some more DNA from the comic other than the family because I think that's just a portion of the comic. I think that
the trailer looks to me like Galactus Godzilla is going to stomp New York.
Yeah,
and the family's got to pull their differences together to act as a unit. We can only, families come together in a crisis. And look, this big guy is about to stomp the city. Got to save the Baxter Building. And
for me, until they get Thing to look right, and I don't know what right is, it just looks like a dude in a bad suit every time. It's just like I just can't get past it. It's just bad. Even in this new one, I think the Thing looks terrible.
The thing that would make the Thing for me is just having him walk through the scene carrying a piece of Jack Kirby equipment that's obviously way too heavy for anybody to carry.
Yeah.
And just casually carrying it like it's nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's signs that the Thing looks good. Him walking around in a suit and that hat trying to blend in.
I don't know what I need to make Thing look right for a movie, but so far they haven't been able to do it.
Yeah, like I said,
that's
the trailer. No, that's okay. The trailer during the Thunderbolts is about the only one I've seen. I don't plan to watch it. I'm trying not to watch these trailers anymore because they give too much away.
Right.
And the trailer that I saw in the Thunderbolts made me go, okay, I'm kind of excited about this now.
But the thing about the Thing blending in, where he's got to wear a trench coat and a hat so that nobody can see the ugly guy. It's like, well, that worked in the 1960s. That doesn't work now.
Right. Yeah.
So I think that's the Thing isn't Elephant Man. He's an he's a loud and proud superhero who just happens to look like a bag of rocks.
Right.
But we've seen ugly superheroes before.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not a thing.
Yeah. A couple comments here. Michael Wilkinson says you should do plays with your comics. You would make more money. And then he says plays are stepping stone to money for a movie. Roland. Well, I don't know any place that does comic book plays.
No.
Bag of Glass. Hey, Bag of Glass. I know who you are now. Says the Mythic Dimension. Talking about Fantastic Four. Dynamic Music says, what about the female Silver Surfer? Good idea or too soon? We'll talk about that. But then the next question also from Dynamic Music, the Dynamic Universe says comic accurate, so it must be done in the movie? ? I don't mind the female Silver Surfer. There was one in comics, not for very long, but I forget her name.
Surfina.
I don't think that was it. I would rather have seen what was Frankie Ray?
Nova. See, that's what I was about to say. If you're going to put a female Herald, there's one perfect in Frankie as Nova.
Yeah, I would rather have seen that.
Yeah, I think I'd much rather have seen that, because the idea that if you just want to, shake it up a little bit, it's like, use another Herald. You don't have to use a Silver Surfer. Use Frankie Ray. She's perfectly, and it's a different dynamic, than the Surfer, because already, we've already had a movie with the Silver Surfer in it.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Well, and I
think that's why.
Go ahead.
I think that's why they made Surfer a woman this time, is because we've seen the Silver Surfer already.
Right.
How can we do it differently? It's like, well, it's going to be a woman. I don't have a problem with it, because my view of the Silver Surfer was he spent most of his time, sitting on his board going, "Woe is me! I gotta do bad things so I can get my Shalabal back." And it's like, well, that gets tiresome after a while.
Yeah.
So I'm over the Silver Surfer. So I'm hoping anybody can do something with him.
Yeah. I'm excited because it doesn't look like they're going to shy away from Galactus being a big, not a puff of smoke, right? And that was the biggest problem with the second movie was Galactus was just a cloud, and I'm like, no, he looks like he's going to be. I haven't seen him yet, but we see a boot, right? And it looks like he's going to be a giant monster kind.
Because the thing is, we're comic book people. We want to see. A puff of smoke is a special effects cheat.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like we want to try to make the monster.
Right. Right. Yeah. So, and I think it looks like that's what they're going to do. And based on my viewing of Thunderbolts, I think there's other things in the future that are going to happen. So, I'm excited for the Fantastic Four,
because I think that's what Thunderbolts. I think Thunderbolts got retooled from the comic specifically so Thunderbolts could be used to relaunch into other things.
I think so,
and I think that's It's not that they know better than us, so they can take the property and do whatever they want with it. It's like, here's how we can take the property and make it an anchor for the franchises that go forward, now that we've lost Chris Evans and Chris Hemsworth and Robert Downey Jr. is now Dr. Doom. And I think that's closer to the thinking. But I was disappointed in the same way with the Spirit movie.
Yeah.
Which is, and I'm generally not the person who says, well, that's not my comic.
Right.
But with the Spirit, it's like, that's not my spirit. I don't think that's anybody's spirit.
Right. Yeah.
That certainly wasn't anybody's spirit.
No.
It's a good thing I was dead at the time, because no one should see that.
No. It looked good if you had the volume down.
Right.
Really, there's some nice scenery. Good Frank Miller imagery in it. But unfortunately, Frank didn't write the Spirit movie. So,
right. He wrote a Frank Miller movie.
He wrote a Frank Miller. Yeah.
All right, Mike, what's next?
You guys throw something at me. Give me a topic. I trust me, I can get on a soapbox about just about anything.
All right. What about the mainstream comics industry? Without naming names and getting anybody in trouble, what is it about the industry itself that is like the blind spot or the thing that is stupid or the thing that we do repetitively that basically makes it worse for everybody?
Yeah.
Basically what every business in this world does, chase after that new customer. And I think it shoots us in the foot. It's happened since comics, it really picked up after Batman. But if you ask me, the idea that, I know everybody wants to expand the readership. Everybody wants to expand who's, reading their books. But I think the comics miss the idea of hardcore fandom. And I think that gets in the way because you have the argument that continuity dissuades people to read comics, or mainstream comics, I guess you say, that continuity gets in the way. But the idea that you're constantly having to change these characters to fit a mold, whether it's the movie Batman, the movie Fantastic Four, changing Aquaman to look like Jason Momoa, it makes us look, as far as shooting ourselves in the foot, them shooting themselves in the foot. It's like we don't believe in our own, validity. It's kind of, I think that from an outside point of view, the person who wants to get into these things, there's probably the people that are willing to say, okay, well, that kind of looks like the Aquaman that was in that Justice League movie. Yeah. But then there's also a part that just wants to see the characters. And I think the mainstream industry just kind of misses valuing, even when they try to get that new audience. They think they're stupid. We're gonna change these characters, and I feel like it. As far as me being what I would call a hardcore fan, I feel like you're missing us as the foundation.
Yeah.
There's ways of catering to us while also, catering to a new audience. But it always seems like they're willing to say, well, instead of us bringing the people to comics, we're taking the comics to people.
And see, I would my argument would be that I don't know that it's in opposition of what you're saying, but my argument would be that I think that continuity is what brought me around as a reader.
Exactly.
I didn't read DC Comics. I know you love DC, Mike, but I didn't read DC Comics because I didn't see the continuity there. I saw they had all of these worlds, and I couldn't understand the multiverse, right? And I couldn't understand them, and so I never bought it. And so I went with Marvel because they were one world. This was before they had 120 books a month. Yeah. They were one world, and I didn't have to buy them all. But I wanted to buy Spider-Man every month because Spider-Man was telling me this long story. I also would make the argument that I think this is what manga readers do. If you look at it, they're buying these really long, I'm buying, this is volume number 50 of this One Piece Punch Man,
It's One Punch Man and One Piece. It's two separate things, bro.
Okay. All right.
Get with it. All right. So I would take that even farther because, there's an argument that I always hear is that your kids today don't understand continuity or can't get into it. It's like my kids can explain Pokemon continuity and Magic the Gathering continuity and Fortnite continuity to me until my head explodes. Right. They get it because it's done in a way that they relate to.
Yep. Exactly.
It's great. And we got it. Like I followed X-Men continuity when Claremont was writing X-Men because Claremont understood the audience and understood the need he basically, he didn't rip it off, but he ripped off continuity from soap operas, daytime soap operas, and he just dressed them up as superhero comics. And that's, you understood it then. And now it's the clarity of the continuity is more the issue for me than the actual continuity.
Right.
I'm happy to follow along. I'm happy to dive in and, pick up I'm happy to go into the middle of something where I don't know what's going on,
Right.
and go for the ride and see if I want to hang on, and then pick up backstory as I go.
Right. If
I
you're
don't
that
need
interested, you'll pick up the
yeah,
back.
just like the old Marvels and DC stuff. I don't need
Yep.
a big information dump.
Mm-mm.
I don't need an hour story so far. Just take me.
No.
It's like sometimes I'll tune into a movie that's halfway over,
Yeah.
and I'll just, if they can hold me for the next 10 minutes,
You're there.
I'll stay till the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, how many of us jumped in at Avengers, 194 or Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man 249?
Yeah.
You get that first issue, and within a couple months, you're kind of with it, and then you really get into it, and then you can, that's the fun of comics. You find out the rest of it. You get to, that's
it
what
poses questions for you.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you know the story, right? You're reading the story that you're in, but there's enough questions. There's like, okay, well, why did Spider-Man say this about Doc Ock? I don't understand.
There's now I can also deflate my argument, because I've met a ton of fans who like the start of something new when they can get into the ground floor.
Right.
And so like part of what attracted people to Image was that it was young people that looked like the audience. But it was also at the very beginning. You were starting a whole thing at number one.
And Ultraverse is one of the whole tagline was out. You missed out on the DC universe. You missed out on the Marvel universe. You could be here for the Ultraverse.
Right. And so we got a lot of people just because you could start.
Yeah. David A. Scudero says, but manga is finite, Roland. And I would say it is, but not until it is.
Right. Because you're like
it doesn't start off as finite.
Because One Piece is up to like a volume 153, so is that finite?
Right.
I mean, it's
so it's not until it is, and our problem is that because these are corporately owned, like Cerebus is finite, right?
Right, but it's 300 finite.
There's 300 finite.
It's a long time, right? So it's finite because it's not owned by a corporation. These corporations are going to continue until they can't. Right?
Yeah.
Right.
And then it will be finite. So David does have a good question for you here, Mike. He goes, what does Mike think about frequent relaunches?
Well, again, I think it dilutes it. I think it absolutely, the idea, years ago, Peter David thought that comics should be like seasons in a TV show. And the idea of relaunching number ones to say this is season 2, issue 1. But, I think the idea, again, comics are unique.
Yes.
And the idea that, another example, Man of Steel by John Byrne introduced me to the DC universe in a larger scale. And because I was a Byrne fan from Fantastic Four, I followed him to DC. I followed him, and I just fell in love with everything they were doing at that time. They were doing what you were saying. They started continuity. They started making these comics more in line like Marvel did. They were a lot of things that were Marvel-like.
Right.
And so but then years later, Man of Steel has a very connotative name to me. It's sacred. Yeah. And then they turned around. Dan Didio gave Brian Michael Bendis a 6-issue Man of Steel miniseries. And so in the idea that's not really a relaunch, but that's trading off of something. Yeah. And I think all these relaunches, they confuse what else is fun about comics. I consider myself a comic reader. I'm incidentally a comic collector because I'm a reader. Right. And so when you get these constant, especially Marvel right now they're doing so many relaunches of number ones, but there's no reason for the new number one. It's typically the same team. It's typically they're just continuing the story. And so those relaunches aren't real relaunches. It's a money grab, and because right now nothing's selling, and all they're selling are variant covers. They're selling, you have to order so many copies of this book to get, and so relaunches dilute the brand even more. Yeah, it dilutes what makes the things so special. It used to be that a book would get canceled, and 2 or 3 years down the road they would relaunch it. You would get a new person doing it. There would be a little bit of excitement over it. But now it's so cheap. There's no sense of, why should I be excited that this is a new number one? Why, this new all new direction. I mean, heck, X-Men relaunched in '94. Issue 94. I mean, you don't have to have a new number one, and it just shows you can go right into it. So yeah, I think these relaunches just absolutely. There's a trust that's kind of like broken between the creator and the reader. I think that there's just we don't have faith in what we're doing. We don't, we're if they're so quick. But again, I mean, they used to retire titles for a couple of years, and then someone would have a new idea and bring it back. And I like those relaunches. It was rethinking it, it rested the character for a couple of years.
Yeah,
and I have a tangent to what Mike is saying, which is I think if the argument from some quarters is that continuity is what keeps new readers out, I would say that the constant relaunches create brand confusion, and people don't know how to get in.
Yes.
And so I think that what happens is if you saw a movie that about a Marvel superhero or DC superhero, and you want to come to the comic book store, and where do you get in? It's like, well, where do you start? There is no place to start.
No.
There is no, and I'm not talking about you need an introductory comic or whatever. I'm just saying that the wall to penetrate of number ones and miniseries and relaunches and companion titles or whatever, it's huge. It's a lot to climb over. You would have to really, really want a comic book to fit your needs, and you have to push away the weeds of the industry in order to find the thing you're looking for. And I think that's off-putting. Whereas if you go, and I know there are no music stores anymore, but if you went to a music store, you would know exactly where you could look to find a thing that you liked.
Yeah.
Yep.
And if you go to Barnes and Noble, if you like mysteries, or if you like, manga, or if you like romance, or if you like the
section,
hits, whatever, it's all right there. You know exactly where to go and exactly where to look. And comics.
I've seen some people argue that comic shops ought to rather than put them in by company in alphabetical, they just ought to say, hey, here are your superheroes, here are your horror comics, here are your science fiction comics. I
don't disagree.
I don't disagree either. I think that's a great idea. Because
it's not, if you're a hardcore horror comic fan, you're not going to really be tempted to go pick up Superman.
No.
And I think vice versa.
Right.
It's so grouping them together in the hopes that somebody's going to spill over. Oh, I like this thing where the eyeball's falling out of the guy's head. Oh, and also Superman.
Right.
You're not, that person doesn't exist.
No.
Here's a good question here. The Dynamic Universe says, I'd ask if comics are supposed to grow up. Should characters age or should they stay the same? Like Peter Parker struggling, and forever dating Mary Jane, never growing older. Part 2 to that question is, and as I get older, should I be changing and reading more adult titles instead of demanding comics and heroes age with me? Ooh, that's a good one, Mike.
I'm a guy that I respect The Simpsons. The model of The Simpsons is that they've been on for 35 years, and you basically know the tenets of it. They haven't aged,
right?
And and I also look at comics just in general until the 80s. You have the Golden Age, you have the Silver Age, you have the Bronze Age. And these characters were relatively unchanged and selling millions of copies. I'm of the mind that you create your own reality as a creator, and the mainstreams are kind of stuck. They're stuck in a situation. Do we constantly reinvent these for the time? And like I said, my argument always will be, you look at Superman. His costume as Superman is a circus strongman. And there's not circus strongmen anymore. And so for a new person, the one argument would be they wouldn't understand, why is he wearing that costume? Why would he wear that costume? Whereas a kid in 1939 or 1940 would, hey, that's a circus strongman costume.
Right.
But at the same token, I guess I'm of the other mind, is you create your own reality. If you have the suspension of disbelief and never act like it's something to bring up, that's your fiction. You know, and that's how I approach Man in the Mask. I don't set it at a particular time. I try not to be incredibly topical as far as the language or what someone might say, because my intention is, you know, I don't really have an end for it, because I do look at it that way. You create your own fiction. And so, you know, as far as if you're a mainstream reader, you know, those characters, you know, the way I would edit them, the way I would direct them, would always show the basic tenets of the character.
Yeah.
But never acknowledge the fact that they need to grow old. Why do they need to grow old? You know, because you get into a situation like the Marvel movies are in now.
Right.
Whereas we are living in real times. You know, these actors are getting older, and so they're forced to do certain things. So they're in a situation of, you know, well, we'll just keep turning it over to somebody new instead of recasting. You know, that's the way Marvel's looking at it. We're not going to recast.
I hold the unpopular opinion of I think they ought to recast them.
I do too. I think they do.
I think they should too.
I think they ought to find another handsome blonde dude to be Captain America. Find another, 6'5" guy to be Thor.
Exactly. I'm not of the mind, you know, you can have people that guest as a particular character, but Steve Rogers is Captain America.
Right.
Right.
Bruce Wayne is Batman.
Right.
You know, they're not, you know, mantles that these guys own. They're their character. That's what makes those characters work. And when you give that to somebody else, at least from my aged point of view, you're constantly saying, well, when's Bruce Wayne going to come back? You know, maybe today's reader doesn't see that, but it's like, well, this is just a story. You know, you know, Bucky is Captain America. Well, that was just a story. We all know Steve Rogers are going to come back.
Right.
So like I said, you have a situation, you know, it's like, but people take a different way. You have Eric Larson with Savage Dragon. He does it in real time. The dragon that's his lead character is the son of the original Savage Dragon. And that's no more wrong than what I'm saying. You know, my point of view is just keep the characters and figure out storylines. There's ways of doing it, because again, it's your own fiction. You know, if you know, it's like the same people that say, well, there's no way Lois Lane wouldn't know that's Clark Kent.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then they don't have a problem with the fact that he shoots lasers out of his eyes and can fly. Well, why can't you have the suspension of disbelief for both of those?
Right.
And as long as the creator's not treating it stupid, well, this is the fiction.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, you know, I graduated to indie comics when I was still a teenager, but I was still reading mainstream comics.
Yep.
You know, but the comics that I was reading were, you know, Nexus and Badger and Grendel but I was still reading Superman or Fantastic Four or whatever, because again, those basic tenets are there. So, you know, it's like the argument with Peter Parker, you know, always being a high school student. Well, you know, he never becomes a college kid, and he never becomes this. Well, again, I think it's up to what you think it's like Buffy. I prefer Buffy in high school. You know, after Buffy left high school, I got bored with the show.
It works better in high school.
It works better in high school.
Yeah.
And just because that's where the foundation is. It's like high school is hell.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you basic on, and so a lot of these characters are fundamental to a time period.
Right.
It's only when the creator or the company starts treating them like, well, we shouldn't respect that. It's like, well, no.
We should update them.
Exactly. We should update. Well, maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you should just show them why they're valuable. And everybody will ignore the rest of the stuff. If they really like the stories, if the stories you're pumping out are quality, everything else is superficial.
My favorite examples are, one is with Superman, when they had Clark Kent quit the Daily Planet and he worked for the TV news channel, and he'd be driving around Metropolis in a van with a microphone and a cameraman, and they'd be doing stories, because that was, you know, newspapers were dying and you know, sending out. And I just always thought it was funny that you take Superman basically and you hunch him over in a van, and they're just driving around looking for the, you know, Metropolis's big tomato or whatever. And I think that doesn't resonate. That's not what a Superman story should be.
No.
And then when there was a period in Green Lanterns, I think the late 70s, where Hal Jordan became a long haul trucker.
Really?
Because Convoy was a hot movie and a hot song. And so Green Lantern.
Respect.
Yeah, so they just, and you know, that's great, but I don't want to see a superhero comic where the guy's driving a truck across country
No.
delivering grapes. It's like
No.
that's not. I understand why you want to keep it going and why you want to be topical. However,
Right.
not that way.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, it's hard because in live action, what Mike said is right. Actors age.
Yes.
They get old, and nobody wants to see 90-year-old Roger Moore as James Bond anymore.
No.
And I think so. If you're lucky enough to be in charge of $1 billion franchise like that, you got to make those tough decisions.
Yep.
How you make them is,
Right.
there's the good way, and then there's like the stupid way, and the stupid way is the one we always comment on after the fact because it's like,
Yeah.
why would you do that?
And that's one of my arguments for replacing the actors like Chris Evans and Hemsworth and all those is that we've done it before. We've done it, James Bond. How many different James Bonds have we had?
Well, we also take the Mike approach that he mentioned about what Marvel and DC used to do when they canceled a title. They let James Bond cool for a couple of years.
Yeah.
You don't fire your old decrepit James Bond on Friday and then start your new James Bond on Monday.
No.
You let it percolate.
Well, Doctor Who. A lot of fans of Doctor Who, right? Doctor Who.
They've come up with a trick. They read.
Yeah, they came up with
the recasting trick down pat.
Right.
Which is
that's how they took care of it. They made a story. Yeah, they figured it out. Yeah.
Yeah, they kill the guy and then they roll him over into the new one. And it's like, whoever did that at Doctor Who is genius because that's the perfect idea that solves all the live action problems.
Yep.
Huh.
And the same thing with the Simpsons. Eventually, if the Simpsons keeps going, the voice actors are going to start retiring.
Right.
And they're already has.
And they're training a new generation of people to redo the voices.
Yeah,
just like when Mel Blanc quit doing Bugs Bunny and Elmer Fudd, they got it took like 6 people to replace all the voices that Mel Blanc did, but they eventually got around to getting reasonable sound-alikes.
Yeah.
Same way with Mickey Mouse. They have to go through different people as the time goes. Yeah.
Well,
this new guy doing Mickey is kind of crazy. Have you heard the story about that? I know this is a weird one. He wasn't really a Mickey Mouse fan. He was just making fun of Mickey. And somebody heard him and it's like, golly, you sound just like Mickey. And then he did like a cold call kind of thing. And they were like, you're the new Mickey Mouse. And he's like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Especially after they said, here's lots of money.
Yeah.
Right. But the thing is, there isn't really that much. I mean, they're not. I mean, the Simpsons people are rich, but the general voiceover actors, they struggle like any other actor.
Right. Yeah, but I would imagine Mickey Mouse is probably a pretty decent role.
He's not doing a whole lot of. It's not like he's got a weekly cartoon.
Yeah, because there's not a lot of call for Mickey Mouse.
No,
I guess so. Yeah,
he doesn't have his own show.
One final question here. David A. Scooter says, what does Mike think about DC having both their traditional line and absolute line? Now, I have no idea what this means, so someone will have to explain it to me.
It's quite honestly the dumbest idea I think I've ever seen that DC's done.
Like, I am up to date, Roland.
Dang, tell us about it.
I'm telling you, I am a hardcore DC guy.
Yes, you are.
I dislike the multiverse to no extent. And a good portion of my DC fandom, they did away with the multiverse. And I was a happier man for it. They streamlined their universe. It made more sense. They had multiple Flashes because there were different generations of Flashes, not because they were on different Earths.
Right.
And the idea in this time, in this day and age where comics are selling so horribly, let's dilute the brand even more by having 2 Supermen running around in 2 Superman books, where one of them is the traditional Superman. And then there's another one because the absolute line is a darker universe. It's as if the Earth was created by Darkseid.
Oh.
And so you've got a
Bizarro.
Yeah, well,
Bizarro universe.
You've got a 7-foot brawler Batman that kicks kids off of buildings.
God. So do they exist in the same world?
No, they're in a different universe.
2 separate universes. Okay,
2 separate universes. You have a Superman that is long-haired, lived through the destruction of Krypton, has never had mom and pa or anything of that nature. Wonder Woman is a warrior of hell. And okay, but the point I'm making is put your energy into your main characters, the two characters again that have been around for 90 years. Don't put your energy into a whole new concept that a year from now no one's not going to care about.
Right.
Because again, there's people look at it and think they're only buying it because they think it's going to be money. And I think right now the speculators are who's buying these comics.
Yeah.
But again, from a story point of view, why would I focus on two current versions of Superman with the idea of maybe one of them, the one that's not
one of them's going to win, and then I've got to decide which one I want to start to continue reading. Yeah, it's kind of dumb.
I know they're trying to go for different fan bases and again chase that new reader. But again, I would put all my energy into a Batman book, into a Superman book, not try to well, here's the absolute Green Lantern. Here's the absolute Martian Manhunter. You're dividing your fan base. You're looking at, like I said, I would much rather focus on them making a Batman book. It's like right now they got Batman with Jeff Loeb writing, and Jim Lee's doing Hush. And that appeals to people, and that's the thing that I think you ought to be doing. Put A-list guys on these top tier books that draw readers, that draw people, instead of, well, let's divide our audience. The guys that like a brutal Superman, let's do this dark and dreary, and then let's do this Batman that he's, a brawler and his mother's still alive, and most of the criminals who he's friends with, and it just seems confusing. It just why would you want to confuse people?
I'm reading 3 Absolute books.
Okay.
One is the Question by Alex Segura, which is fantastic. It's a crime comic. It's a little darker, but it's not Batman dark. I'm also reading the new Metamorpho, which is a lot of fun. It's a lighthearted goof, and I'm also reading this one, Martian Manhunter, which is crazy. Like it's. I'll see if I can That's
that's weird.
And it's a very different, non-traditional sort of take. It probably appeals only to me and like 6 people I know, but I can respect the idea of people are trying new stuff.
Yeah.
And because I don't think the world has been clamoring for a new Question series, and I don't think the world has been wanted. Oh, look, Martian Manhunter's back! Thank goodness.
Right.
So I don't think they've been asking for it, but some talented people are putting in some effort to at least be different, not just dark,
right?
For the sake of being dark, but different. But I'm torn because what Mike says makes a lot of sense. If I've got regular Batman, and then if I've got kid murdering Batman, and then if I've got another version of Batman, it's like the same thing. Where if I love Batman, where am I going?
What do I want to read? And those 3 you just showed don't have other titles, so they're not competing with anything. They're actually allowed to be experimental. They're not, there's not a regular Question book. There's not a regular Martian Manhunter book, right? There's
Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman.
So
what are you going to do?
But there are some that are in both, right?
Right.
Like you're saying the Superman there, so
all the main guys, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, and Green Lantern, they have absolute books. They have another, mythology going on.
Yeah. Yeah. So there you go, David. That's what Mike thinks about that. Well, folks, we've run out of time. It happens every Sunday night. It just flies by.
It flies by.
It does. It flies by, and the next thing you know, we have to say goodnight. So, yep. So,
it's a song, Roland.
I'm not singing the song. Any shows? You guys have any shows coming up this week? We need to talk about?
I'm going to finish watching The Residents on Netflix. That's the show. That's the show I'm going to.
BJ and I started Andor.
What do you think?
We're going to do that when we get back.
Because I love the first season of Andor.
Yeah, we liked it a lot too.
Everybody's saying it's good.
And so I'm gonna look. I'm not gonna stop watching it. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But right now, if you were to ask me to grade it, it wouldn't be near as good as the last one. So I'm gonna play it out. I'm gonna play it out.
They're playing it like it's supposed to lead a different way to lead into the movie.
Right.
That that's supposed to be.
Oh, don't do that to
phenomenal.
me.
The
Don't do that to me.
The thing that I find odd about the Star Wars TV shows is that they play a long game.
Yeah.
And so it feels like they'll eventually get to there, but in the middle, I always think they are draggy.
Right. It feels real draggy right now.
Right, because in the first season of Andor, there were a lot of scenes where he's just sitting around the campfire.
The first season was a little draggy.
And they're just,
but I still love it. Yeah.
Because it's a way. Sorry, I'm going to sidetrack us again, but it's like the movie Great Escape.
Yeah.
70 years ago, whatever. It's basically just guys. It's basically just guys sitting in a room plotting.
Yeah.
But they make it tense and they make it dynamic and they make it sound like, anything can happen and, the Nazis can come in and shoot them at any time. And Andor, they're just sitting around the campfire and the TIE fighters will fly overhead and they'll sort of duck and they'll spend 3 episodes doing that. And it's like, the guys in the old World War II movie, they did that much better.
Yeah. It's similar to that. Like I said, we're not hating it or anything. That's not what I'm saying. We're enjoying it, but right now it's kind of like, all right, come on. Where are we headed? Where are we doing? I'm not really sure what's going on with this. I don't know.
Because I'm all in for things like Rebels and the Bad Batch and some of the other stuff. So I don't have any Star Wars hate in me.
Nope, me either.
Because as I've said before, we live in a golden age of television that I only dreamed about when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So I understand that some of it's going to suck and some of it's going to be not for me, and some of it's going to be so awesome I can barely stand it.
Well, and here's the other thing: is that I think some of these how can I say it? IP loving people have to understand that sometimes their IP sucks. Yeah. Right. So Star Wars people have to realize that sometimes when you put out this much Star Wars stuff, it's not all going to be great.
Some of it's going to suck.
Some of it's going to suck. Just be thankful that you have it. Just that you can have the good stuff and the bad stuff.
And this here, I'll piss everybody off. It's like church. Sometimes going to church on Sunday it's the worst sermon in the world or it's the worst whatever. But you still
sometimes they're talking right to you.
That's right. And so
sometimes his fingers like this right here.
That's right. And sometimes Star Wars is like going to a bad church, and sometimes Star Wars is like going to a theme park. And so I think that's where I draw the line. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad.
On Tuesday, that's Silverline Show on Tuesday. Going to talk about creating great legends and stories. The team discusses how you can add depth and mystery to your setting with history, mythology, and legends. That's on Tuesday. On Wednesday, the Wednesday Whammers are going to talk about adaptations. Let's do an adaptation of some of the properties that the Whammers would like to make comic adaptations of. That ought to be pretty interesting.
I hope it's Star Wars.
Okay, right. Next week, we're going to have us a guest, y'all. We're going to have guest Terrence Baker, who I know Tommy knows. Terrence Baker is the founder of Independent Creators Connection, ICC, on Facebook. He's a comic artist, a writer, and a publisher. He's been active in the indie community for many years now, and he's been featured in several newscasts about his creativity. ICC even hosted 3 of their own conventions. That is next week here with
Good
us.
His gears.
He might tell us.
All right.
He might tell us. All right, but if you guys have no other news, you know what time it is.
Make mine Silverline.
All right, good night, everyone.
I don't have my cup.
You don't have your cup. Thank you so much for hanging with us. We'll see you next week.
Click on the tube and feel the vibe. Every show you crave right here live. Heroes and villains clash in the night. Madness Comic Network sets it right. Scroll through the list, find what you need. Epic battles and fast-paced speed. From capes to cosmic space delight. Tune in and watch your favorites ignite. On Facebook, share the thrill so grand. On X, the buzz across the land. Madness Comic Network all around. In uploads, they never end. Superheroes and their friends catch every twist and every turn. Madness Comic, you will yearn. Stay up to date with every twist. Madness Comic, don't miss a gist. From laughter to tears, every mood. Madness Comic sets the groove. Click that button and subscribe. Catch the wave and ride the tide. Join the fun, join the craze. Madness Comic brightens days. Hey! New uploads, they never end. Superheroes and their friends catch every twist and every turn. Madness Comic, you will yearn. Stay up to date with every twist. Madness Comic, don't miss a gist. From laughter to tears, every mood. Madness Comic sets the groove. Click that button and subscribe. Catch the wave and ride the tide. Join the fun, join the craze. Madness Comic brightens days. Hey!
Hi, I'm Greg Horn. Make mine Silverline.